Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our screening of The Interceptors. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Ian, and I'll be your MC. I'm a practitioner here with Story Money Impact, which is an organization that is dedicated to providing a platform to documentary films like this one to bring communities together and spark a public discourse around important issues. Tonight, our documentary delves into regional food security and some of the innovation happening to rescue food and get it to those in need. Following the film, we'll have an excellent panel of guests who will explore the food security landscape in Vancouver and paint a picture of innovations that might be of use to your own food rescue. But before I go any further, I want to acknowledge that we are guests on the territory of the Lekwungen people, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt here in Canada. We want to thank them for their stewardship, care, and leadership of these beautiful lands, and really just celebrate their stewardship, past, present, and future. And because you are joining us virtually, we invite you to reflect on those lands that you were on yourself. I'd also like to thank our partners who have made this evening possible. To Food Rescue Hero for hosting us, Vancouver Food Runners, Ono Vancouver, and Food Stash. So with all that said, I hope you enjoy The Interceptors, and we'll join you in about a half an hour for a great panel discussion. So until then.
Food has always been a really important part of my life. Growing up in the Philippines, we would always have the big table set up, and grandma would always have something for us. My first memory is definitely simple tofu and cabbage that my grandma always made. I don't know what she put in it, but I still to this day can taste it. Go grab the eggs. My grandma had a restaurant in Manila where I grew up. That restaurant, it was the heart of the neighborhood, the heart of the community. Someone in the community is having issues or someone in the community need food, that's where they would go. Her principles, her values are very important. It's part of me. It's part of what molded me as a person. I moved from Manila, and I moved all the way to Port Hardy in 1994. It's funny because I always knew I was going to end up in the food business. It was just kind of inevitable. Growing up in the Philippines, my perception of Canada is always on TV. You watch Saved by the Bell, you think that everything is peachy, but when I found out there's a lot of people that are struggling, especially in the downtown core, it blew my mind. Maybe my 7th year or 8th year cooking, I think I had a baby right around that time. Started working with a number of different organizations, and I started to see the needs, but I always felt that I could do more. When the pandemic struck, everything ground to a halt. During that time, all the different restaurants that are shutting down, they have prep for at least a week. So in at least a week worth of food that's about to get wasted. People in the city, not necessarily in the best financial situation, and a lot of them are my dishwasher or my first cook, my second cook. That's when it clicked. Maybe we can do something with this food and give it to those people that worked hard for us, that have worked side by side with us. And just through word of mouth, through connections, went from different kitchen to another kitchen, emptying the fridge, get the food together, and then cook the food and get it out to the community. started cooking all these different meals, I reached out to my supplier, which was Yen Brothers Food Service, and I said, hey, we're thinking about cooking some food. And I come in with my little Honda Civic thinking, oh yeah, they'll probably have like, 5 cases. And my car was packed with probably like 15 cases of spinach. My trunk was full of Beyond Meat sausages. And that's when I kind of like, this is a problem. Not just because it's pandemic, but I think this is a problem that we overproduce.
What got me into the food security space was I found out that 1 in 5 kids in Vancouver go to school hungry. And then to know that 50% of food ends up in the landfill, I found that quite a shocking statistic. I really just started researching to figure out if there was a way to somehow get that extra food to kids. And that's where the technology came in. The Food Rescue Hero app I discovered by looking online a way other countries and other cities were trying to tackle food waste.
So our app is extremely efficient and useful in helping with this food pickup process. Essentially, all I have to do on my end when I get a call about food is I ask them how much it is and what kind of food it is. Got a call from Terra Bread's Olympic Village. They have baked goods available in large bags, approximate weight, quantity, and then a little note for our volunteers so that they know what they're picking up. From here, all I have to do is publish this rescue, and then the notification will go out to about 1,800 volunteers.
The neat thing about the app is that it's similar to being like an Uber driver. You can pull up the app at any time. You can see what rescues are available. And you can also see who the donors and the recipients are. I really wanted to make use of our time during the early days of COVID. I think we all know that during the pandemic, the food insecurity really came to light, and we wanted to be a part of a solution. There's ability for me to look up my impact, and I can see that I've rescued thousands and thousands of pounds of food from the landfill.
Our niche is really collecting from businesses that really haven't had a mechanism to donate their surplus food because it's too hard to send a truck to pick up a donation of about 150 pounds. It's just not going to work. It's not scalable. It's not efficient. It's not cost effective. This app technology allows for these businesses to basically have access to food recovery. And it's exciting that Vancouver has this now.
We started doing food rescues in March of 2020. We did not have the app in March 2020. Community partners were calling us constantly saying, there's such a need right now. You cannot believe it. There's lineups around the corner. And then on the other hand, we had food suppliers now calling us saying, listen, guys, this is your time. We've got food. Can you come pick it up? So we just started manually matching food with community partners and then blasting out an email every night with matches we had made. And slowly we'd have 20 volunteers, and then it started growing to 100. And within weeks we had about 500 volunteers just on an email chain as we were matching food to community partners. TJ and I, we were on a big, huge Zoom call, basically, right when the pandemic hit, to figure out how to get food to kids in the schools. And so we started rescuing food and bringing it to a kitchen in Burnaby, and he would cook.
Is that watercress as well, right?
Yeah, watercress, this cabbage.
Yeah.
This carrots. This,
Yeah, that radish we're gonna get. I'll get another cart. So all these mushrooms would have just gone to the compost or the bin. Nobody else would have been able to use this. But now it's going to go into curry and cream soup. So we were cooking at Pacific Restaurant Supply during the beginning of COVID. And then when that ended, I decided to keep going and keep doing what we have started, because as you can see, we just keep getting all these different surplus food, all these different amazing produce that would have otherwise gone to the garbage. I contacted Coho Commissary, and they were gracious enough to let us cook in here. And then, yeah, two years later, we're still here. Palit tayo sa sa TV ka na ngayon, ha? The height of the pandemic, we were doing about 3,000 meals a week. Now we're down to about 2,000, and the reason for that is because we don't have the funds to be able to keep producing that much food. Vancouver food runners will bring us the food that we need to be able to cook. Sometimes they will just come organically, somebody will call them. And then sometimes, like, I'll get a call and somebody will say, got these mushrooms, I have 10 cases of it, can you use it? And essentially it just, you know, we don't actually have to pick it up, which is great, because the more that we are out there picking up and delivering, the more that we're not here cooking, right? So the volunteers are the ones picking it up, bringing it over here, and they're also the ones that delivering it to the community partners that we provide for. If Vancouver Food Runners was not doing what they're doing, I probably would have stopped at, you know, like probably at 6 months. So that's 150 liters, 150,000 divided by each. It's like basically a cup, 250 milliliters, so that's 600. 600 meals, 600 meals right here. We serve it with rice, and yeah, amazing. 3 pickups, directions, youth services. We got Kilala Lelum and health initiatives for men. Good day. People think that, like, we're cooking food scraps or something, but, like, they don't understand. Like, the quality is same, if not better than when I'm, you know, running a hotel. Like, some of these things that I'd be using, it's like, oh my God, I would be paying top price for this. What resources had to be pulled from our land to be able to produce this product, and then seeing it going to waste, especially knowing how many people out there could have this food. It's heartbreaking. After this, we move on to those things that make us money to be able to do this. It gets tiring at times. I try not to at all show much emotions about it and show much frustrations about it, because I started this whole thing, so I can't show that frustration too much.
I call the downtown east side the epicenter of colonial harm. Many people come from all around Turtle Island to seek services due to circumstances beyond their control. It's also a site of resilience. Kilala is a healthcare clinic in the downtown east side. It provides primary care, and we have a relational care program where we do case management to work with people that are really vulnerable and need life-saving medication every day. I don't think Kilala would be what it is unless we had food as part of the medicine that we offer.
We serve food out of here 7 days a week. We are open 365 days a year. With that donation from TJ, cuts down on 2 lunches that we have to prepare. The biggest challenge for running a food program is the budget. I work with about $4 per day per person, and it's not a lot when you're trying to serve nutritious, healthy food on a daily basis. Receiving the meals from TJ has, enabled us to offset our food budget. That's helped us immensely. The amount of food that we get from TJ and his staff is, it's incredible. Somebody should have invented smell-o-vision a long time ago. When it comes out of the oven or when you're serving it, it's just, it's amazing. So it's like you try to guess what they've used in there, and everybody, when they come in, they always comment like, what is that? What does that smell? What are you guys making? It's really important that, everybody down here feels like it's a home-cooked meal, that somebody actually cares enough about them to offer that. Receiving meals from TJ Weekly has helped us provide choices for our members in terms of more traditional foods or foods that they would like to see. So at the end of the day, we're still able to provide healthy, nutritious meals without having to skimp and cut here and there, because his meals are amazing.
When I started realizing this is not sustainable, I think it was the second shutdown. So essentially, all the restaurants were closed again. So, the money that we were able to build started getting lower and lower and lower. This is so important that I want to make sure that whoever's helping me is still being paid. I was dipping into my own savings account. Charcuterie done. Baguette we're working on right now. Antipasta platter. Hummus, there's only 2 bowled up. We might need a little bit more. And then the last thing would be marinating the shredded cabbage. And we're good. We'll cook at the commissary for all the charities in the morning, and then we'll go over here or other event spaces, whether it's private dining in people's home or... It's a pretty typical day. We balance it out. Usually Inari's like got the pocket and it's like standing up like so, right?
We got a rice in the bottom too.
I think you'll be able to mold it.
I don't know if he knows this, but we do call him Saint TJ behind his back. He doesn't have a bad bone in his body. He's always looking out for the people around him, making sure that that everybody else is good before taking care of himself.
So we'll just fill that corner with pickles and then tomatoes here. Right in that corner there. It's important to stay a chef because 1, that's what I'm good at, and 2, that's what I love and that's my passion. And it's important for me to not run it as a charity, but run it as a business. We still want to keep making sure that we're being able to provide for the people that we provide for, but we also still want to make sure that we're still making enough money by doing this kind of stuff, and also that we're still exercising our culinary muscle, so to speak.
I mean, he's great with the community. He's great the one-on-one, but also I think he's also changed the community and the culinary industry because, we're all trying to make everybody around us better. So I think that's why I've stuck around for so long.
once we've got a bunch, I want you to layer like so, okay? Yeah, we always try to make sure that we're okay, but in reality, there are some months where I'm thinking, you know, hey, should we just stop this? At the end of last year, our income was cut in half. So it became a turning point for me, not only as to how we're gonna keep this going financially, but also for myself, because I've been a chef for 23 years in the private sector, so the easiest way for me is to just go back, right? Go back and maybe run another hotel or open more restaurant, be a consultant, and that would be the end of it. I felt guilty. I got 1,200 meals gone every week. I feel guilty, even though I shouldn't, right? Because I've been able to help all these people during the time that I did. If I stopped it, I should just say, hey, good job, that's it. But like, I feel guilty having to stop this. The more food that I see that I'm able to divert into different places, the more that I hear about the impact that we do, the more pressure it gets to me. Like, because like, well, how much more is out there? How much more food can I divert? How much more people can I help? Like, if I had the resources, how much more can I do? When it all started, I was already working with Lunch Lab, and it was a pilot project to be able to have more school lunches in Vancouver. A social worker sent us one of the kids' feedback that said, I've never been to a restaurant. I've never been to a restaurant, but this is what I imagine a restaurant food would be. Like, imagine a kid not being able to go to a restaurant. Sorry. You ask why, how I can keep going, how I'm able to keep going. Dude, that's just one. That's all I need, man. That's all I need. No, we'll take the ice. You guys just peel it. I got the support of people, and I have to keep going. That's kind of where I land is. Like, I got the support of people. People believe in me. People understand that what I do is important, and they will help me if I ask. A couple of months ago, I found this organization in Montreal that's able to help me with funding. It's an amazing feeling that now I don't necessarily have to hustle and try to like dip into my pocket to be able to keep cooking for the community. But also it was really rewarding for me to like, hey, even people from Montreal notice what we do and support what we're doing.
In culinary school, I knew I didn't want to go into a fancy restaurant. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. It's just wanting to make a difference in a community that is forgotten about. And then, you know, along comes TJ too, and to find out that he's pivoted his own career as well to go into providing meals down here for the downtown east side is incredible.
TJ has a heart of gold, and TJ is a connector. From start to finish, this is a true community project. And yeah, we just feel so privileged to be able to collaborate and work with him.
If somehow we can spread more awareness to people in general about food waste, you know, and letting them know that there are places out there like Vancouver Food Runners that would be more than happy to pick up their food, or people like TJ that will turn that food into really nutritious meals for several locations on the downtown east side. The more awareness that there is out there, the bigger TJ's organization can grow as well.
If my grandma can see me now, she would be amazed of how I grown up to be this adult that actually cared about the community much the same way that she cared about our community when I was growing up in the Philippines. For her to see me affect all these different people's lives through food, she would be so proud.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the film. Isn't it beautiful? It always gets me at the end. The piano's just playing my heartstrings, but I'm soft like that sometimes. But if there's a moment that resonated with you, feel free to share it in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Again, my name is Ian, and I'm an impact practitioner with Story Money Impact. We have about 1 hour together right now over this panel, and we'll be making room for your questions near the end, so please get those ready. Our goal of this conversation is to bring light to some of the learnings and practices that can travel across borders from Vancouver to your own communities and understand how we can work better together and bring more people into the work of rescuing food. Now, I'd like to bring up our panelists. We are really grateful to be joined by the great chef TJ Conway, the protagonist of the film. TJ is a chef, restaurant consultant, and owner of Ono Vancouver, and has worked in restaurants worldwide. His other ventures include the social enterprise Reroute and school lunch program, Lunch Lab. Thanks for joining us, TJ. It's really a pleasure to have you. And
thank you.
We're also joined by Chloe Leslie, one of TJ's co-stars in the film. Chloe is a passionate program manager for Vancouver Food Runners, and she has many years of experience in community programming. So welcome, Leslie. Thank you both for coming to speak with us tonight. It's a real pleasure to have you, and we hope this is a lively conversation. I've got a list of questions here, but let's keep it open and just see where the conversation goes. There's a lot of innovation happening in this landscape, and I'm sure we'll touch on just on how big the magnitude of this issue is. $59 billion of wasted food in Canada per year, and I think if the number is correct, I think it's like $400 billion a year in the U.S. So it's a massive problem, but also a massive opportunity. And first, I'd like to talk a little bit about innovation. So I'm going to throw it over to TJ initially. We're talking to many people engaged in food rescue. How can we, as food rescue organizations, involve more chefs in this work like yourself? Understandably, many chefs already work long, grueling days. We've seen a little bit of that in the film from you. But they're often very incredibly passionate people who love feeding people. How can we lower the barrier to entry for them and get them involved?
Yeah, for us, like chefs, like what was shown in the film, like it's very easy for us to levitate to being able to give back, but obviously with our how busy we are and how many things we're involved in, it gets a bit hard to kind of jump that first barrier of like how is this going to happen, what's going to work, how we're going to get everybody on our team involved and do making sure that this is something that we do from now on. So with Vancouver Food Runners, the one thing that they were definitely good at is trying to remove that barrier, like making sure that they have one-on-one conversations with chefs, and making sure that like maybe even on the first pickup we coordinate who's going to where, and maybe even one of the managers are there to make sure that it's easy to be able to help or give back. And yeah, just with regards to that, I also think that there are some point people that they can now have kind of walk the chefs through, like for example me myself, and being able to tap in all these resources that have done so before, that are willing to provide knowledge in that field. It's always very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, making it accessible is sometimes a challenge in itself, breaking down walls that have been there for such a long time. They're there for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
No, please. I'm here to be cut off by you. I'm just here to keep the
No,
energy.
what I was gonna say, yeah, exactly. So the barriers that I always hear is like, oh yeah, there is this law, there's liabilities and all these different things that are barriers that really does not exist. So that's a very good example of one. And also, and then another example of one is like, oh, I do not know how to get it delivered. So those are two barriers that we know should not exist. One, we have Vancouver Food Runners, and two, we have the Good Samaritan Act that was done in the States, and then we also have one here in Canada that there's no more liability. So all these different barriers that are still to this day, even though it's been so long that that's not an issue anymore, still on chef's mind. So that it's really those two things that we can affect right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. I'm sure your circles are full of a lot of good Samaritans, but is there a common retort when you approach somebody who is a chef that isn't engaging in this work, when they have somebody like yourself, kind of a guru of this? Is there something that you use to kind of change their minds, kind of like something simple and sticky? If there's not,
I'm sorry. Yeah, it just cut off there for a minute. Yeah, well,
sure.
the
I'll
last
just restate. But is there a small sticky thing that you can use to kind of bring chefs over into your way of thinking? You're a good Samaritan. I'm sure you roll in the circles of good Samaritans. But if you're approaching a chef to say, hey, get involved in this work, is there just something simple that you kind of throw at them that kind of breaks those barriers down?
And that's I kind of touch on that on the film. It's like it's pretty simple to just show the chefs. It's like, hey, this is something you can affect. It's food. It's going bad. It's food you can give. So those are two things that were really like, that's if everything else boils down to nothing else matter. That's what the chef is being all about. Whether they're doing it for money, whether they're doing it for charity, whether they're doing it for whatever else. If you touch on those like emotional state that the chef are actually is all about, and they're very existent, really exist on that. It's like if you touch on that, figure out how you can how can you just from how can you just like you can give them that kind of emotion. They're like, oh, you are right, there's food going bad, food that needs it. I'm the stopgap. I'm the one that could say, oh, I will not do anything about this, or I will do something about this, make a big impact. So that's really, they when the chefs find that out, it's just automatic.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, right? You just have to kind of wrap your head around the simple concept of, get out of the way. Don't be the block. So, Chloe, I'm going to ask you. You have the pleasure of working with TJ, but are there any other examples of passionate community members that you work with that are kind of taking the reins and trying to make this food rescue a reality?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've worked with so many incredible organizations. And the interesting thing about food rescue that's a little bit different than traditional food banking is we're really able to tap into such a diverse range of businesses that have traditionally not had that mechanism to donate food. So we're really fortunate to work with like cafes and bakeries and catering companies, wedding event planning organizations, sporting venues, so many different sectors that do have surplus food, and we're able to kind of have a champion of each of those. And then we find that once we kind of establish a really solid relationship with someone in that industry, they're able to kind of yeah, help us and like take the reins and tell other folks in their network. And that's been such an incredible resource and has helped us to collect so much surplus food that like traditionally people didn't necessarily have a mechanism to donate. In addition to that, obviously we have a volunteer powered model. So we're able to pick up even small donations and take them somewhere super close by. Whereas traditionally, if you were paying someone with a large truck and a salaried driver, et cetera, you might not go collect a donation from Starbucks. But now with Food Rescue Hero and the app and our volunteer network, we're really able to tap into all those different sectors. And we're so lucky to have champions in kind of each individual area.
Yeah,
and that can
absolutely.
help us really spread the word.
Yeah, again, what you do fundamentally is provide access, easy access, breaking down barriers. Are there any? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I just was going to say that, we really do our best to like meet each business where they're at as well. So if they're ready to start donating on a weekly basis, that's awesome. If they are kind of new to it and a bit hesitant and want to just trial out one or two pickups, that's cool too. If they want, early in the morning, late at night, we really do our best. Since we have that amazing volunteer network, we really do our best to kind of approach each business individually and see what works best for them and their team.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely providing a sample, a pilot opportunity to kind of see how it works would be really useful. Are there any notoriously difficult businesses to engage in food rescue that should be a player?
Good question. We work with such a awesome diverse range in Vancouver. Sometimes we see that like large grocery stores can be a little bit challenging to work with just because it kind of can be difficult to engage all of your staff. Like if you're a huge grocery store and you have 30 staff on the floor, they're different every day of the week. Some of them work part-time, some of them work on the weekends, etc. It can be difficult to get that message across to all of those folks. With that being said, again, a huge part of my job is really just connecting, doing what I can, connecting with store managers. I'm happy to come into the grocery stores on whichever day of the week, chat with whoever I need to chat with, go to the different departments, really just do what we can. And I guess I could say that can be a challenge just because they have so many folks they need to be able to kind of explain what we're doing. And that can get messy sometimes, but we do our best to mitigate it. And that's why we have staff on the ground that are happy to go in and chat with your business and kind of see where everybody's at and explain our protocols, explain where this food's going to go. I do my best to emphasize that it's going to go close by. So it's going to go like to your neighbors, to people right in your community where the store is. And I find that can be motivating.
Yeah, really cool. TJ, I have another question for you in a second, but I kind of want to press upon this. It's a little bit more with Chloe here. Speaking on innovation, are there any unique or unconventional methods that your organization uses particularly that you've employed for food rescue that you think our audience might really be able to leverage in their own work?
Naturally we use the Food Rescue Hero app, which I'm not sure if everyone in the audience is aware of. I think so. It's a really incredible technology piece. Such an incredible piece of technology, and it is so helpful for us and it's able to efficiently coordinate all of the logistics through the app. So as you saw in the film, it's able to walk those volunteers through each step, and it just eliminates a lot of labor for our team, and then therefore we can allocate our resources, our time, our energy, our funding into recruiting more businesses and getting more food to a diverse range of nonprofit partners as well. So the app is so awesome and amazing, has amazing data analytics, all of that stuff. It's been incredibly helpful for us. We could not be happier with the technology platform.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, the technology is wonderful. And again, a lot of this issue is a logistical issue, right? It's about tracking food and getting people involved, streamlining things. I'm sure, there's some amazing AI solution in the future that's going to come in, but, it's really, at the end of the day, it's about people and food. The machines don't need food. So we don't want to involve AI too much long term. TJ, still on the topic of innovation here. You run a restaurant consulting firm, Ono Vancouver, and it helps engage in menu design, kitchen operations, training, and kind of chefs for hire. It's really interesting. And this kind of helps fund your community programs and your food rescue. Maybe you can speak to the model of social enterprise and the success you've had with that to kind of allow yourself to be more sustainable in this field?
Yeah, so in the beginning, even after COVID, and even during when the film was happening, or was being filmed, it was always kind of like, okay, is this something that is sustainable to be doing all the like to be doing, you know, like instead of doing it on the side of the table, is this something that we can latch on and figure out so that we can have it more sustainable? And that's kind of it clicked on me that if you're not doing it as if it's not part of the soul of your company, then a lot of times then it always is going to be just something you do on the side of the table. And we know that when we're doing things on the side of the table, a lot of times we just push it back and we don't ever come back to it, and it just becomes something that we used to do. So it was kind of a thing that I decided, like, okay, we're going to try this. We're going to try this for a year, and that was more than 2 years now. So we've been doing it for a while now. So it became kind of the soul of our business. It's actually, all the staff we now hire is it's directed towards being able the chef that are wanting to be able to give back, or just a good cook that went and wanting to be able to give back. And then I created a system where we can do all of these different things under tutorial.
Oh no. Okay. TJ, you're cutting out a little bit.
Being able to make money at the same time as being able to give back, using the same system, using the same sauces. We also are doing things for the school meal program, so we're also integrating that whole thing, integrating food rescue with the school program, teaching program that I'm now also being able to teach the kids with it. So when it becomes part of your DNA, and at the end of the day, it's something that everybody knows that's our end goal, then it's just easier to prioritize. It's just easier to be able to find people that think the same way as you. It's easier to be able to find help from people that think the same. Want something that I being able to wanting to help you, and as well as helping you enjoy.
Sorry, TJ, you were cutting out a little bit. I hope I'm not cutting out, but you were kind of a bit muffled at the end there.
Oh,
there's no tinfoil around your phone or anything.
No,
I think we caught most of that though. Through some of your consulting, you engage in menu design. I think that's a really interesting and kind of sneaky way to kind of go in the back door of these organizations and figure out how they can leverage, the minimization of food waste. Is that something that you kind of had in mind?
Yeah, exactly. So even when I was at the hotel at the Delta Vancouver Suites, when I was executive chef there, they had a mandate to be able to be I was in the sustainability committee, and we were kind of talking about how we can do that. And at the end of the day, it was so, again, like another thing that they just want to be able to say that we do, or there was not really any structure for it, right? There was not really something that, hey, okay, this is what we need to do. This is so. When I'm starting any program or any food premises, like, I'm always kind of like getting into the point of, like, if you do this in the beginning, one, you will help save yourself money by not having as much waste, and two, if you are able to then also give back for the waste that you have, or for anything that you don't want to throw in the garbage, it would also be a good thing for your marketing. It'll also be a good thing for your social economic impact, and as well as your social credit, so to speak, right? So when you talk in monetary terms, and that's why I bring up the fact of that I used to work in Marriott, and that was never really monetized. But when you monetize these things, social economic impact, the social, like the promotions that you can be had with this, and also the staff engagement, and all these different things that a lot of times the big organizations are trying to monetize. If you're able to talk in that term, able to talk to, you're gonna save money. Able to talk to, it's good for your marketing. Then naturally people already want to give back, especially with our business, right? Like, so, but if you give them that one extra incentive, then they even more so they try, they will give back. They will do they will make it a part of their plans.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're living in kind of a golden age of corporate social responsibility, and I think that's a really interesting part of your business, and definitely now is the time to kind of press on that button. It's a massive industry. Chloe, as I mentioned before, there's roughly like $60 billion of wasted food a year. I think the number is 408 billion in the US. It's staggering. It's actually, the opportunity it's kind of ridiculous. But there are a lot of enterprises like TJ's that are coming in to do something about it and to leverage that. How have you seen your organization, Vancouver Food Runners, and even your colleagues in the space kind of growing and try to evolve to take advantage of this staggering opportunity?
Yeah, good question. So one thing we've really tried to do is have a really collaborative approach with the other food recovery organizations in the city. If anyone's American on the call, they have Feeding America. We have like the Greater Vancouver Food Bank. There's other food recovery organizations as well, Food Stash, Second Harvest, Food Mesh, etc. And they do similar work as we do. Everyone does it a little bit differently, but we really, really do our best to work together. We really try to foster a lack of competition, just because there is so much food waste that there's really not a point in trying to be like, oh, you got that store, we wanted that store, etc. So we try our best to meet with those folks, to engage with them, to see where we can fill in, where they can't, where there's any gaps in the entire food security landscape in Vancouver, and who is the best organization to possibly fill that gap. So although it may seem like we do the same thing and that could lead to competition, we do our very best to minimize that. I like to say they do truckloads, we do trunk loads. One of my taglines. So yeah, we really do our best.
I can see the bumper sticker already.
Nicely done.
So I just came up with that. So we do our best to really just try to see if there's a store that needs a pickup and one of those organizations, somebody's sick or their truck's broken down, we try to fit in. And then on the flip side, if I get a call about 20 pallets of something, that's not a great fit for us, and I can give one of those folks a shout. And that's just been really awesome to see. Additionally, I just feel like food recovery has been kind of a little bit more normalized in the last few years, even since I started in this role. I feel like more often now you see community fridges, community pantries pop up. You hear of apps like Too Good to Go and things like that. So I think it is becoming a little bit more normalized, more of a household term. I think people are kind of wrapping their mind around the concept more, which has been exciting to see as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, there are so many apps out there as well that really help you manage your own personal consumption and waste, which is really cool. And I implore everybody on the call right now to go and just into your app store and just see what's there. There's some I think I found 4 or 5 the last time I was in there, and it's really compelling to see all the innovation. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people see this opportunity, and there's a lot of people pouring in to try and make a sustainable enterprise out of this. But going back even before, the charitable sector has always been a little bit fragmented. Everybody's kind of very insular, wanting to protect what they have. How have you found the competition in this space since it's become more normalized, right? And rescue has become something that a lot more people are aware of.
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's such a huge, massive problem that even though there's been way more apps popping up in the last year, even our poundage, our number of our pounds of food collected per year have gone up 40% since this time last year. So I really personally don't see any issue with apps like Too Good to Go or Flash Food or anything like that. Yeah, it's not a problem that our team can solve on our own. So if businesses want to use an alternative solution that works better for them, like that's great. Whatever works best for you to reduce your waste works on our end as well. And if Vancouver Food Runners is a good fit, we're more than happy to step in. If not, any solution is a good solution, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I'll just kind of segue into something a little bit tangential here, but it's about relationships at different scales. And you work in Vancouver. I know a lot of the people on the call work kind of very, very regionally. But, you know, the Food Rescue Hero app, you know, it has a national infrastructure, and you can really lean on the resources of other communities to see how you can do things and do them well and do them better. How have you managed working with kind of a larger organization, kind of more of a macro one? There are other ones in Canada as well. Maybe you could touch on how you foster those relationships and how do you get value out of working with larger steering kind of organizations?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, as I mentioned before, we have loved working with Food Rescue Hero. One thing that's amazing about it, in my opinion, is that the tech side of things is completely taken care of. So anytime there's a tech issue, we don't need to outsource it. I don't need to be on YouTube trying to like learn how to code. So that's really helpful. Additionally, their data analytics, they have a whole team specialized in data, and those folks are so incredibly helpful. So when we need data on our volunteers, their demographics, their age, the time they like to do pickups, the areas they like to do pickups in, all of that is really readily accessible to us. We have data from every single food rescue we've ever done, and it's even itemized into every single item we've ever picked up. And they're able to do incredible analytics with that are much beyond myself and the rest of my team's Excel capabilities. So that's been super amazing to be able to kind of outsource that and just have them there to support us. Anytime I need data pulled specifically to, they're happy to do that for us. So that's been incredible. Additionally, when we were getting started, they were super, super helpful with just sharing so much resource and a wealth of information on how to like donor best practices, nonprofit partner best practices, volunteer stewardship best practices, all of those things that would have been a lot of upfront labor and research if we hadn't been able to lean on them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Scaling is a really difficult challenge, and being able to take advantage of seeing other people do it and best practices from Food Rescue Hero. That's wonderful. TJ, I'm going to throw it to you here. Now, we've kind of touched on big data and tools. Are there any interesting tools that you're leveraging that people that work in food rescue and more of an organizational level like Vancouver Food Runners should be maybe aware of so they can maybe integrate, or any interesting things you found?
You know, one of the biggest thing about just being able to work with Vancouver Food Runners is that we're able to tap into their data. So that's kind of like if ever we need any advice on that. But you know, one thing I definitely would love to see more is you know, figuring out how chefs can access data that they can use on their daily life. That's a lot easier than having to manually track things. And I know there's some stuff out there that's coming out that's getting easier and easier. But I look forward to the day where it's just like, look at it, you take a picture and knows the weight or something, and then you just click on it. So I think to answer your question, I would love to see something like that. But yeah, I know that the Marriott Park Hotel, for example, they are developing a system within themselves that they're figuring out, and a big spot like that would, you know, something that's beta, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I've talked to people here where I'm located in Victoria, and another thing that they've kind of echoed is just being able to weigh things. It's a big challenge, and data entry itself is a massive barrier to entry for a lot of people. It's just kind of make work, and they wouldn't engage in it unless they, you know, there's some funding tied to it or something.
It would just be easier to hold your employees accountable. It's like, hey, you're not tracking. Like, there's pictures. You have a picture. You have a phone with camera. and you have an app, just open it, so that would just be great, because I'm not always in the kitchen, obviously, right? And that would just be awesome. But yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a step back from the macro level data side of things and logistics. Let's get back to food. So TJ, I'm interested, are there any notoriously hard to rescue products, or any types of products that you find that you've done some interesting practices around that other people could kind of learn from when they're sending people to go get food and sending it to chefs like yourself?
Yeah, so for us, greens is something that, and me and Chloe kind of like converse on this by text all the time. It's the greens are things that, like, obviously are the ones that goes bad a lot faster. Like the arugulas, the lettuces and other things like that. And I get it. I also don't like salad that much, but it's also something that we've been able to develop a program where we're getting a lot of greens. We will make some, some of them we'll make into a curry, and there'll be a green curry, and all these other ways, or pesto or something like that. So as long as you're not so, you're not so like set on using recipes, you kind of have to like kind of use your imagination, trying to be able to get rid of as much greens as possible. Then, for example, today we had green curry at the lunch lab school meal program, and we had a bunch of okra that was also donated, and it was like, and people and kids are actually loving it. So as long as you make it taste delicious, try not to get stuck on the traditional recipe based cooking, then you'll have more fun.
Absolutely. And perishability is a huge thing too. Greens obviously wilt almost, instantly. Are there, maybe let's segue into the role of community kitchens and maybe some of the innovations. Obviously, if you can pickle something once you get the food to a kitchen, or do things to kind of increase the shelf life, maybe create more interesting products through the use of a central kitchen. You're working with the Coho Commissary. Maybe you could kind of speak to the role that that's played in this landscape. I don't know if we lost him or he's looking very stoically towards an answer.
Sorry, I just caught the last one on like a robot thing. But I think you're asking about if I could speak about the Coho Commissary.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the role that plays in the landscape.
Yeah, so that's a very important, obviously very important step in what our whole operation, to be able to have a big kitchen, to be able to cook all these meals and turn them into bulk food. It is having something like that in your community, willing to be able to give back just by opening their doors and letting you do your thing so that they can also help, is very important. Obviously, I'd love to see the role of government to also step in and say, hey, listen, we value the things that you're doing, or we value this model, not necessarily just me. We value this model. I think that this is something that we should be focusing on, and actually having an infrastructure around it. But like having people in the community being wanting to give back, like a big kitchen, not just a commissary space, is very important, because like we're able to do all these things. You talk about pickling things, and when we get a bunch of these things, we'll make a big pickling liquid. Well, just because of all the infrastructure we have, we can use a vacuum sealer, we can use the big pot, we can use all these different equipment to be able to turn all these perfectly good food into something nutritious, or preserve them for later use. We actually do have, with our catering business, we call it the Ono surplus board. We're still working on the name, but I kind of like it. So essentially, it's all preserved or pickled, and some fresh vegetables that we can also then talk about what's happening in food rescue, and as well as food waste, through one beautiful dish, right? So we have a big board that we use out of oak, the slab tree, and oak wood, and then we basically lay out all these nice vegetables. And I always say, like, you see all the state of that vegetable that we preserved during the time that we got it. Like, there's a problem with our food system, when we're throwing things like that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Any shout outs, both of you? You want to give to the problems in our system? Give you 30 seconds of whining if you want. No?
Oh, I think it's like it's all new, right? Like Chloe was saying, there's a not that it's all new, but there's a new interest, there's a building momentum around it, and people are stepping up. It's starting to get better and better. There's more and more infrastructure happening. Just like, yeah, I think I look forward to probably 1 or 2 years from now, and it could become even more so that, like, it's just a thing that everybody does.
Absolutely. Chloe, I'll give you 30 seconds of whining if you want it. No?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Just to echo what TJ said. Yeah. The one thing we've always hoped for is that, like, our municipal or provincial government, I mean, federal would be a dream as well, would have some sort of like bylaw or some sort of regulation around owning a business, especially grocery stores, and having to donate your surplus food. Or if that's not possible, maybe having some sort of taxation incentive for donating your surplus food, which does not exist currently.
Sorry, I was going to say, you get a place like France, and we know that they have laws against all these things, and it's not impossible.
Yeah. Are there any, thinking to the future here, about any trends you've noticed or technologies or what have you, but even countries? Some countries are a couple of years ahead of the game, and we're kind of catching up to them. Are there any organizations or countries or things you're looking to the future to kind of give you like a picture of it? We'll start with you, TJ.
I come from Manila. I come from Philippines. So it's funny because I think about it. It's like, when it becomes a necessity, your environment, just like
his answer is blowing up our servers here.
Jars.
TJ, if you can hear me, I gotta cut you off for a second, because your answer seems really interesting, but we can't hear you. You're cutting out for a second. We'll give you a second. Okay.
Sorry, maybe you can start with Chloe. I'll be right back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Chloe, I'll pass it over to you. Are there who are you looking to? What is your North Star? What are some trends that you're looking forward to?
Something we've been advocating for, that I'm sure people have heard of a little bit. Canada's the only G7 country that doesn't have a national food program in their schools or national standards for food programs in schools, specifically elementary schools. We know that childhood nutrition is so important, especially in those early years. So that's something that we've been advocating for, and we support a lot of programs, amazing programs throughout the city that do school food programming. So that includes breakfasts and lunches, and then also groceries for students to take home. However, it's not mandated, and it's mostly still operating on a charitable model, not on a federal or provincially funded model. So that's something that we're envious of in other countries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, Lunch Lab is trying to change that, by the way. The Lunch Lab school meal program, we're now into the third school, and this is all integrated into that as well. But yeah, that's a great shout out, Chloe. But one of the only G7 countries to not have one. That's school meal program. So I was saying earlier, it's like when it is a necessity, you tend to be an environmentalist by default, saving everything, using everything up. So I think more than other countries that are being an example of the food rescue, I think we should also look at other countries being an example of food waste preservation. Like what is it that these countries are doing that are like, they're using every single thing out of the vegetable or the meat that they're using. They're trying to, they eat all of the parts of all the produce that they use, or all the animals that they use. So all these different things, I think I as a society in Canada, I always give this example that if it's not chicken breast, if it's not salmon, and if it's not, lingcod, a lot of times we don't want to order it because we're not used to it. But why can't we eat a nice, a nice meal with a trout or sole, or why not eat a broth made out of pig straughter? Why not? So all these different things that we should be using all of the parts of all the bounty of what our farmers are giving us, and also in turn makes it even more sustainable because we can then support the farmers that are around here. But as long as they don't have to do single crop farming, and they don't have to just do what is supposed to be the popular items, and then we can have all these other, we can be, so this, I can go on and on about that, but yeah, I think that
No, it's a really important, it's a really important part, right? Our taste buds dictate the change that's happening in this landscape, right? And to your point, monocultures are a big problem, and we have to really get used to, a broader flavor palette and a palette of textures. And I haven't been to Manila. I'm sure that it embraces kind of a broader spectrum of those qualities that we don't really have here in North America necessarily. Are there any cultures that you think, any of the food that we should really be kind of latching onto as kind of a North Star for sustainable cuisine, but really flavorful cuisine as well?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's India, comes to mind, Thailand, so even in like some of the countries that have by default went into, war, for example, and they've learned how to use the whole parts of different things, there's something to be learned about that, right? So instead of like us only wanting this certain parts of animals or certain parts of the vegetables, like those are the things that we could be latching onto.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope our culture can kind of learn from that, kind of embrace the melting pot in a way that's advantageous for the economy and this problem. I'm gonna pause it to the audience we have left. If you have any questions, you can start to populate them in the chat there, and we'll start to rattle them off to our panelists. But I've got a couple more questions here before we wind down. I kind of want to lighten things up a little bit. We've had some heavy conversations, but still some topic of food. Everybody loves that. Let's hear from you. What is the most interesting thing that you've ever rescued? And was it edible?
Yeah, so it was definitely edible. It was really delicious, actually. It was so a farm that we work with, seed farm, actually just takes a lot of the seeds from different things, and they save it, and they either redistribute it or do some more innovations with it. So one time they had tons and tons of squash. I think, if I may recall, probably like 150 pounds of squash. So there's only so much you can do with squash until someone goes, "What the heck, man? Squash all day, squash." So we got really creative, and we started using it for all different usage. We used it as because it's yellow. We used it as a mac and cheese thickener, so it already looked like it's mac and cheese without even using any cheese yet. But obviously we added cheese later on. But and it made it for a delicious and nutritious meal that. Yeah, we used it for our school meal program or lunch lab, and we used it for the community. So that kind of stuff. So, and it went from everything from soup, everything from and to.
Again, his answers are too powerful for this technology. TJ, we'll have to go over to Chloe for a sec. Oh, and we lost him completely. Powerful. Okay, Chloe, maybe if there's not a food that's really been like perplexing to you, why am I rescuing this? Or maybe it's a quantity of something, but what's really perplexed you?
There's been lots of things, honestly, over the last few years, especially since Vancouver is a port. A lot of the food for Western Canada comes in through Vancouver, and sometimes it comes in on the wrong day or something like that. And then the store that was going to buy it does not want it anymore. So that happens quite a bit with some produce. There's lots of produce wholesalers in Vancouver that are kind of the first point of contact. So sometimes, trying to think, yeah, we've had some interesting donations, like for example, like 10 pallets of watermelons, because like a little bit difficult to use, especially since they're hard to cut, a lot of staff labor. So that was an interesting one. And additionally, we also do ad hoc rescues when things go a little bit sideways. So for example, there was a hotel, Christmas 2021, I believe it was, that had prepared and cooked 600 Cornish hens for a Christmas dinner event, and then it had to cancel it due to a COVID outbreak. So we had like 600 prepared individual hens to collect. So that was an interesting one as well. Since we work with such a large variety of partners, we're generally able to mash every single thing up to the best of our ability. Sometimes it's more challenging than other times, but yeah, we do our very best with our dispatch team and our wide network of recipients.
Man, what 600? My God, that's, I don't know how many flocks that are. Is there a plural for a number of flocks?
I'm not sure.
Yikes. Okay, that's gonna give me nightmares. Sorry, TJ, we got cut off with you there, but you were talking about some delicious mac and cheese, and
yeah.
I think the squash is a fantastic, innovative solution to kind of getting that texture. Is there a way to get the cheesiness though?
You know what? Squash. So cheeses. A lot of people don't know this. It's about the umami, right? So the umami flavor after you fermenting the milk, it turns it into cheese, right? So that's actually something that you can replicate by adding a little bit of fermented things into it, whether it's like a little bit of vinegar or just in general having some soy, some miso. So all these different things that you can add that punch, which is like a lot of times that's what we crave for, is that umami flavor from the cheese. But you know what? I still put a lot of cheese into it, so it was really good.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of cheese to be rescued too. We don't want to leave them out.
Oh yeah, exactly. We have there's never any really issues about that. The food is not really the issue. No. Actually, it is the issue, sorry, but it's not the issue to be able to find food out there. It's more just,
the food it tastes good. It's screaming out to people, eat me, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know if we have any questions coming in from the audience there. We have 5 people that are hyperly engaged in what we're talking about, and they're not. I think we've answered all their questions. I'll ask: is there anything else that you'd like to leave our audience? This stream is going to be given out to hundreds of more people, and I hope that we've given a broad context of some useful tools. But is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with? Well, maybe I think Chloe wants to go first.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say if folks are interested in getting more involved in the food recovery space, even if you work in a different industry, any sort of encouragement or chatting with your local bakery or a restaurant you go to down the street from your house, or if there's a cashier at your grocery store that you have a relationship with, we find that initial contact can be so helpful and important in food recovery. And that's how we've actually gotten the vast majority of our donors, is just like a first time face-to-face connection with someone who works at a business. So if that's if it's something that interests you, that's a really, really great way to get involved. Volunteering as well, obviously. Mm-hmm. There's different ways that folks can show their support for food recovery no matter what city you're in.
Yeah. And if people want to learn more from you directly, can they reach out to you through your website, Vancouver Food Runners?
Yes, absolutely. They're more than welcome to submit an online form that will go directly to my email.
Wonderful. All right, you heard that, folks. Light it up. And TJ, any last comments for our audience? Of course, and then please tell us where they can find you as well. You're more of a celebrity, I think, so they can reach you through a lot of different channels. But anything you want to leave us with?
But yeah, if anybody wants to learn more about what we do, anybody wants to learn from us, or if anybody wants to fund us and help us have more impact with the community, there are many different ways. So one just reaching out to me directly, or supporting our new ready-to-eat meal program called Reroute Kitchen that uses the same surplus vegetables, surplus food to be able to you can take it home, frozen, in pack, boiled in the water, 13 minutes in the bag, open it up and eat it with rice. Or like whenever whenever you want to just join us and help us cook, reach out to me as well. But yeah, most importantly, like we said, building this infrastructure, being able to help out other people takes a lot of work from myself and my team, but helping us support that cost by giving us money would be awesome. Whether it's through private dining, whether it's through our just straight up funding, or with our other social enterprises.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're a consultant, right? So you're open for hire, right? So everybody reach out to TJ and see what he can do to kind of brainstorm with you how to bring rescued food into the equation with your business, your organization in new and unique ways. He's the man to talk to. And there's one final thing we'll end off with, and then I'll get to some more calls to action for our good audience here. But we'll end off with a lightning round, okay? So don't get too heavy with your answers, but as this is probably going to date this broadcast, we're hosting this right after the Canadian Thanksgiving, and we just celebrated it. And we want to ask our panel here, what is their favorite Thanksgiving dish, and who makes the perfect version of it in their life? TJ, do you have something?
Funny, pork hock is a thing that my mom makes all the time. A little bit of star anise, soy sauce. It's so delicious. I just had it this Thanksgiving. I didn't even have turkey. It was so good. I didn't have turkey.
That's great. Well, we want to diversify. We don't want to put all the pressure on the turkeys this time of year. Chloe, what about you?
Mine would be cranberry sauce that my close friend Sarah makes.
The condiments. Really? Fantastic. Wow. It must be delicious. All right. Well, maybe you'll probably get a few questions about that recipe from your friend. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I want to thank both of you. You've been just a well of knowledge, and thanks for enduring this panel here. I hope we've squeezed enough out of you, but you still want to come back to something in the future. Next step, if we can bring up the next slide here, this is where we need our audience to get involved. We're going to be sending out a survey after this via email, and we hope you'll fill it out. If you have a QR code reader handy, you can access it here too, but please take 2 minutes to complete it. It helps us validate to our funders the impact that we're trying to make. It's just really short, but this work is really innovative, and we want to bring more films screenings to more people, to bring the story of TJ and the Vancouver Food Runners out there. They represent your community as well, and the more people that know about food rescue, the more funding we can get for it. And it's kind of a cyclical cycle of good. So if you can help us out through that, we'd really appreciate it. Well, and on that, I also want to just thank again Food Rescue Hero for hosting us today. It's been a real pleasure to reach some of their audience, and we hope to see you all again in the future. So on that, my friends, that concludes our evening. We hope that you found this evening enlightening and inspiring. So thanks for spending time with us. And with that, we'll sign off.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Adios, everybody.